Good evening and welcome back to our virtual Dominion Energy Jazz Cafe. Tonight, giving us our next evening of just straight pure jazz, we welcome from near and from far the Steve Kessler Trio. Gentlemen.
Hello, everyone out there in TV land or YouTube land. I'd like to introduce these great musicians who are playing with me tonight. Old friends, both of them. I've known them both for decades, but we've actually never really played together as a group before until fairly recently. This is on bass. We have Mr. Paul Langosch, and Paul's come down here from Chevy Chase, Maryland tonight, and well-respected, well-known bass player. I could go into lots of details, but you said yes? No, okay. and on drums we have Robert Jospe, my friend from Charlottesville. I think originally from New York, but not sure. Somewhere, Belgium, someplace. Anyway, that was a song called A Folk Song that I wrote years ago. And now we're going to do something relatively new that I wrote called Invisible Movie Theme, which I really thought it might be a score for a film originally. But the film doesn't exist, so we have the song, though. And you can put whatever story you want to it. By the way, I'm Steve Kessler. I'm playing the piano tonight. Thank you. Thanks for attending our rehearsal. Here's an old song that I did not write. This is a song called For Bud that I wrote for Bud Powell after getting to know Buttercup Powell years ago. She used to come out to some of my gigs. It's supposed to sound like an early bebop song, the spirit of earlier bebop.
Okay, all right, yes. Didn't I tell y'all at home we were going to listen to some jazz tonight? If you didn't know jazz before, you know her now. Thank you, gentlemen. I don't know how your finger, I told you last time you were here, Steve, when I expire and come back to this earth, I want your fingers. The rest will do, but I need this man's fingers. Speaking of your fingers. There. Tell me where I got to sign. Speaking of you and your magic fingers, would you care to join me for a little chat? Gentlemen, take a break. Steve Kessler Trio. Sir, we've had a lot of great music on the program. Sometimes it's jazz, sometimes, frankly, it's not jazz, but who knows what that is. Tonight, you're reminding us of what jazz is if you look it up in a book, and I thank you for that. Before we get into our conversation, would you take just a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words?
Well, how little can I get away with here?
As much time as you want.
Well, I'm a musician, obviously, and I've been playing all my life, and I'm from Richmond, okay. And I've been called off onto the road with different people over the years, and I've lived also in Baltimore, and also in Canada, and also in Boston, but I always end up coming back to Richmond. So I think I've played in Richmond, I don't know, when I started playing by ear, I ended up doing some piano recitals I was asked to do. So I don't know what year that would be. Let's see, probably in the early 60s or something.
Wow. Okay.
But I didn't start playing in bands till the late 60s when some band up the street asked me if I would be in their band.
Now, questions about that, but before we get into the follow-up questions, how did you at first get into this craft we call music?
How did I get into music?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I could say that music got into me, because I didn't really have any interest in music until I started playing by ear, and then the interest level grew because I needed some information, some insights to learn more about and to develop. It wasn't just simply a matter of listening and going, yes, I want to do that.
Well, where did the ear come from, and why did you begin to develop it?
Well, that's kind of a weird story, but let's just say it's one of those things where things happen to people. People have different reasons everyone has their reason for getting it, and for me, it was something that my mother's side of the family had some musicians in it. My mother was an excellent singer. My sister has gone on to be a world-class opera singer, but my dad's side didn't really have much in the way of music, but I guess that was in my system, yet I never wanted to sing because I felt like, okay, my mother sings, my sister sings, I'm not going to sing. So my singing was playing piano.
Yeah, we are very similar in that way.
Oh, really?
My mother's side of the family, full of musicians and performers, and my mother, a singer. Mm-hmm. My sister growing up was the one with the voice, and I was just sort of also there. Now look at me on this stage with you. You're 9, I understand, when you first begin to play by ear, and then a band picks you up years later. How old are you then, and how did they learn that you play?
Well, they were up the street from me where I lived, and the drummer knocked on the door. Nice kids. I kind of knew them, and he was too embarrassed to ask me. He was a little kid too, so he said, yeah, the guitar player wants to ask you something. So he said, yeah, we wanted to know if you'd be in our band. So that was the very first time, and then then I formed a little trio in high school. This is like ancient history stuff that has nothing to do with my career since then, But I formed a little trio with a bass player, an upright bass player, and a drummer in high school. Joe Kennedy was a violinist from here, and he was the head of the music department head of the orchestra at my high school. And he heard me playing, so he gave me keys to a practice room so I could practice, and he also set me up to do a tour of high schools in the state with the trio.
Wow.
So that was the first time I'd really performed in front of an audience, like outside of solo recital stuff.
Now, Steve, I know some on the program, like myself, steeped themselves in the world of academia. Not that you're not equally as intelligent and as bright or as smart a musician as some of those, but I know that your study wasn't quite like theirs. How did you develop such a great career, or can you tell us something about the career you experienced? Being a kid who learned by ear and picked it up as you went.
Well, it's just a matter, I don't know how to impart that, because if we're interested in something, it's hard to explain that interest and where it comes from. Mm-hmm. If you're interested, you pursue it, and that pursuit leads to more interest and more reward. So I feel like I also understand that people who went to music school many times they learn a lot, but then when they get out of school, they have to sort of retrain themselves to work in the real world. I think I got great training just from being mainly from records, listening to great musicians who I wanted to know and understand what they were doing, and the people that I played with over the years. So those things, and also my own efforts but music, where does it come from? It comes from beyond me, where I'm thinking, like, I don't go, okay, I learned this song and here's what the song sounds like. It's beyond me. So I think music is a more universal thing than we realize. Talking about music is something that's hard to do because that's why we have music, so we don't have to talk about it. But
now, I'll tell you, you talked about it. You talk about it great. I watched you. I watch everyone, but you tonight leading the guys around you, what you're expecting, what we want to hear, crafting the performance for tonight. That takes great dedication, I think, and great skill. As a pianist, someone who made the conscious decision not to go into singing, like you say, how do you put together a program like tonight, and what sort of story are you trying to tell as you play?
Okay, well, the first part of the story is one should always rehearse before you go, which we didn't get a chance to do. But how I put that together was really how I put the trio together a couple years ago, because Paul Langosch, the bass player, he's played with Tony Bennett, he's played with Mel Torme, and he's played with John Hendricks, and he played with Tony Bennett for 20 years. And he used to call me when he would get off the road with Tony Bennett, and he was dying to play, and so he has this very creative side to him. And we would have lots of interplay between us, because I would do a lot of things and he would do a lot of things. And so I got the idea that Joss on drums would be fun, because Joss lays down a different kind of landscape. And so that's why I formed that trio. I asked both of them how they felt about it, and they were into it. Tonight I've been working on recording things and writing things at home. So tonight was an attempt to do some of those songs, and ended up foregoing some of them because it was just too much stuff to lay on them for one little rehearsal before we play on it.
Well, I mean, I got to witness some of that. Some of it we're still getting at home. Don't act like we're shortchanging you. I do, however, look forward to a time where we can really, really sink our teeth into what we were working up to, because it's really quite. Sometimes we talk about things that are academic or intellectual, and we mean boring, but that's not at all what I witnessed earlier. I witnessed deep creativity, something that made me want to think more about it.
Well, that's a very kind and apparently honest thing for you to say.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I mean it.
I do think that that's one thing that has suffered since the pandemic, which I don't really want to talk about, but of course the lack of live venues to perform. I think that even up in Canada, I would play for people who didn't really have any background in jazz music at all, but they had a sincere interest in observing something happening and being created right in front of them. Yes. And so there is that visual connection, I think.
Steve, thank you for saying that. That's a very great point. I don't think a lot of the creatives like ourselves think about. There are so many people who maybe they're creative, but they don't know it. And so they've never gotten to experience what it's like to create something from the ground up the way we do. Obviously there are elements of creativity, but a lot of it is just channeling things that come through. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to be bizarre or anything, but it's things that are beyond us that we don't understand musically. We're capable of more than we realize. Yes. Yes.
I should just leave it with that and say good night.
I love the power of our minds and the power of our creativity and the stories that we tell and the love that we're able to don't know, to produce isn't what I want to say, to give out, to extend, I think, to others. And music helps me with that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people say about music, about jazz music or any music for that matter, is that it's designed to make people happy, that you're going out and making people happy. Well, that's a simplistic view, because it's true. But you make people happy, generally speaking, in music, emotionally, and they're also listening with their feet. They want to dance, they want to move. But there are also some people who want to experience some intellectual connection with what's going on besides. So everybody's different. So it's not, I think that's part of what jazz does for me. Actually, I don't even like the word jazz, I just call it improvisation, because there are expectations of any label, meaning it should be this or it should be that. And that doesn't mean I don't revere the traditions that are there, which I studied and love.
You jumped my gun a little bit. I was going to ask you, what is it about jazz that drew you to it? But I think you just told me that improvisation. Is there more to the story?
Well, of course, but no. But the thing is, early on, I heard when I was like a young kid, I heard some Cannonball Adderley and Duke Ellington. Yeah. I liked the Duke Ellington. I didn't understand the Cannonball Adderley at all because I had never heard bebop before, and I couldn't understand why they would record something that sounded so unbeautiful. Like, what is this? And then, of course, years later, once I learned the language, I went back to that record. I thought, oh, yeah, this is great.
Learned the language. I don't think we've talked about that enough on this series. You're sparking something in me right now,
okay.
Mr. Steve. For episodes to come for sure, but the language of music, I don't think we talk about. I don't talk about enough myself. I'm glad you said that.
Well, there are dialects within that language, and I mean, it's a matter of course, it's a matter of speaking. If the analogy is language,
right.
It's a matter of communicating with people. So you're trying to reach people. You also put out ideas that when you have a conversation, you're giving your own ideas and your own thoughts, which may be different from other people.
I think there's something to that. As artists, we communicate just like anyone else, just like linguists, orators. Even the painter is communicating to the next painting. And
parallels all over the place with
absolutely. There's so much to teach ourselves and those around us about what we do and about who we are. And it's minds like yours and minds like mine and minds like those who've been on the stage with me that I think help to teach that lesson. And I'm glad that from this museum in this town, we're able to make those messages known. Thank you, Steve, for being a part of that.
Thank you for having me.
I can't say it enough. Also, I'm jealous of those fingers. I can't wait. I can't wait. I don't ever want to play another piano again, not if you're in the room. So thank you for giving me that inspiration and for delighting my ears and myself.
Thank you so much. I certainly do appreciate it.
I get long-winded on these things, and I think it's time to get a little bit more music out of you. Are you ready? Well, we're looking forward to it,
Yes,
Steve.
I look forward to the second set as well.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. Is this on? Yes, I guess it is. Welcome back. We're just going to play a couple of songs. We no preparation on this. We're just going to play a couple of standards. Those of you out there can go. Well, if we have to decide what songs we might play, you can just feel free to go to the fridge and get a nice ice cream bar or something. And we'll be doing, what is this, Secret Love and Bluesology. And we might do another one. Okay. This I dig. This I dig. Never mind.
All right, all right, all right. That's the end of the show. Guys, you had everyone at home, I think, tapping their feet at least. And I got to learn more about you both. I don't think I've seen you here yet. I told you when you were coming in, I gave up this very profession because of the load in. And I'm glad I did, because I can't keep up with you. And on the bass either, sir. Once upon a time did my fingers pluck strings like that, but I've never walked a bass like you did tonight. Steve, thank you for bringing them to the show. Sure. And thank you for coming back, no stranger yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to BJ at the Richmond Jazz Society. Thank you to Dominion Energy. Thank you to Remember Tommy Productions and Chris up there in that booth. And to you at home, thank you as always for loving with us. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you for learning from us. And as always, in Richmond, Virginia, from the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts on the Leslie Cheek Theater stage, this has been our virtual Dominion Energy Jazz Cafe. I'm Robert Fennard. Good night.